welcome to Connect to Success. I'm your host, Ashley Owens, your personal networking concierge, where I get a chance to talk to the power networkers of the greater Philadelphia, South Jersey area, and now nationally, because we got something called Zoom. I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm so thrilled to have here Miss Clemence Scouten. I am thrilled to have you here as a guest today. Thank you so much for being here, Clemence.
Thank you for having me. It's an exciting thing to do, to meet with you like this. So.
I'm so thrilled. Can you talk about what's going on in your background? I love it.
Oh, sure, of course. Well, this is kind of what I do. I help people write their memoirs and tell their family story, their family history. So this is an example of a family tree, an oversized family tree that I created for a family reunion, which is one of the big reasons you'd want to create one that's like so big.
Yeah, right.
But family trees, genealogy research, I mean, that's kind of one of the main pillars of family history projects that I work on with clients.
So how did you get started with this business? This is so interesting because we've got things like the online genealogy. I forget, what's the name of it?
There's a bunch of them, but yeah. Ancestry is the one everybody talks about.
Right, but I feel like it's not very personal. I feel like even though they're getting the names, you're kind of generating what you may or may not think is the right person. I remember kind of taking a trial, doing the trial for 30 days, and it came up with people I never even recognized and my family couldn't recognize. So it didn't even really make sense. But I feel like with you, especially because you're so into working with each of your clients individually, you would have come up with a better with better results.
Sure. I mean, you've hit so many ideas there in that sentence, I'm not even sure where to start. But yes, the first thing is that just genealogy research can feel impersonal. You do find information about family members that can help us understand the type of life they led. And the first thing I say to people before they start a genealogy project, of course, is just be careful, because you can't unknow what you find out. So if you don't want to find out that your family has cousins who married, if you don't want to find out about what happens when contraception was not invented, and how many relatives we have that we don't know about, if you don't want to find out things like this, a genealogy project is not for you. But that being said, to move on to your next point, one of the other things that happens, there are a lot of mistakes in genealogy. Just because you find a document about someone with the same name as your ancestor, it doesn't mean it's them. So you really have to be a sleuth and want to dig around and research and kind of go down the rabbit hole to make sure you're doing it right. There's nothing worse than finding out, in 6 months from now that you researched a branch of your family that was actually not your family.
Wow. So take me through the process when someone calls you. What problem are they typically having?
Well, I haven't had too many people call me with problems. It's more a discussion of, I want to talk about my family. I want to share this information about my family, but I don't really know, what the best way to do that is, or to make it interesting for others. And can we figure out together how to make that happen? So, whether it's writing your memoirs and collecting your story, your personal story, or whether it's producing more of a coffee table book that tells your family history with many branches and many stories and many photographs, or whether it's a book about a point in time, my years in the war, my time in this particular job or starting this business. That's where the interesting stuff happens, right? It's really honing in on what is meaningful to that person about their family and doing something really great with it.
Can you take me through some instances where you've worked with a family, like what they came to you with and then what you were able to find?
Sure. Well, let's see what I was able to find. Right now, I'm working on a project with a gentleman whose father was a soldier in the war, in the Second World War. And so all this is taking place in Europe. And this gentleman wrote down his experiences in the war and happened to have a camera. So there's like 200 or 300 pictures of this, these years in the war. And it's not this is not the big picture, right? It's today we marched from here to here, and today we learned how to fire artillery, right? It's really like what the day in the life of the soldier was like. And what I learned from this was that the soldier was actually was a German soldier, and he was captured at the end of the war and put in a prisoner of war camp, and then essentially used as slave labor for 2 years after the war ended, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Wow.
But it was happening in France, and I am French. I grew up in France. I was able to research around the camp where this gentleman was held and find materials that that supplemented this the story, and find photographs of camps and documents from these camps that I don't think otherwise would have surfaced. So
wow.
That's what happens. You don't know what you're going to find out, but there's a lot of good stuff out there.
So talk more about your services. So besides looking up the genealogy, what else do you provide for people who are looking to learn more about their family history?
Well, one of the things that happens is that you want to work on it, or you want it done, but you really don't necessarily want to do it yourself. So you have all these photographs, but you don't actually want to spend the time scanning them. Or you have these great stories, and you're happy to talk about the stories, but you don't particularly want to write them down and then edit your own book and then figure out how to publish it. And so I take that off their plate, off my clients' plates. Whatever it is that you're into, that you want to try and figure out how to do for your family history, I'll do it for you, or I'll find someone who can. So whether it's writing your memoirs, or whether it's a photo book, or whatever, that's the service I provide.
Wow. So I'm just thinking about some things that even my dad had given me about a couple years ago. And I'm thinking about, like, I've got these big trunks of just titles to homes. I mean, I'm talking about like 1920s, maybe even, way earlier than that. The very first O'Donnell that came over, because O'Connell. O'Connell? Yeah, O'Connell. Irish, we're all the same at this point. But O'Connor, I'll figure it out. Anyway, these big trunks, and I've got all of these documents to deeds of houses, and they're back in the 1800s, and I have no idea what they mean, who lived there, all of this stuff, but I feel like a full memoir book to really kind of put the pieces together would be super interesting. Has there ever been an opportunity where some of your clients have been surprised by what they find? By what you find?
Yes, absolutely. And, this is a little tricky because I do preserve their confidentiality.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But absolutely, it happens all the time. And just today, I found some documents about a family's company that was founded in the early part of the last century. You can order documents from the Department of State in Pennsylvania, as you can in many states, right? And they learned a lot about who was the founding member of the company and what year, and who held stock in the first year of business, and this kind of stuff. And it sounds really boring, and there really is nothing more boring than listening to somebody else's family history. Your own family history is really cool, right? You really get into that. And by the way, that's one of the great myths of family history, is when I talk with older people who are like 65 plus, and they say, "Oh, nobody's really interested." When I talk about this with my grandkids, they, their eyes glaze over. Right. And yes, teenagers are not in general a great audience for this. Right. But when they grow up and when they have kids of their own, that's where they're going to actually become interested. And so to arm those adult teenagers now, right, now that they're grown up, with materials that talk about your life or your parents' life, that's really meaningful. That's how you can, keep this, the soul of your family going, right?
Amazing. And so do you write the memoir? I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, and excuse my ignorance, but when you write a memoir, is it a book, or is it a novel, or is it a collection of stories? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, that's a great question. And there's a little of everything. Again, it's whatever the client wants. But traditionally, a memoir or an autobiography is, it's the story of your life, or of a point in time of your life. And And so I interview people, it gets recorded, and then I take that transcription and turn it into something that's readable.
Got it.
Because when it's an interview, it's like this. It's a little messy. We say, well, oh wait, was it O'Donnell? No, wait, it was O'Connell, right? And all that stuff gets corrected and properly written, and the grammar's good, and all, it's all buttoned up by the time it goes to print, so that you end up, here I have a sample for you, end up with something like this.
Oh, how nice. Yeah.
I don't know.
I can see it. Yeah, we can see it.
Everything's on Zoom. Everything's backwards. And it's a real book. Like, it looks like something you get at Barnes and Noble.
Wow.
And, and his pictures, and, it's your memoirs. Mm-hmm. It's a real thing. It's a book. But if the client wants to do chapter 1 is going to be about my mom, chapter 2 about my dad, mm-hmm. chapter 3 about when I went to, when I was drafted, chapter 4, my career, that's how we'll do it. I don't have an agenda, right, to make people talk about stuff. It's what they think is important for their grandkids to know, or their great-grandkids to know.
Oh, it's so wonderful. And so, what is it like for you to, when you see the reaction of your clients, when you uncover something that is either shocking or wonderful or interesting, like take me through your own personal journey of what you do, because it's very personal. It's like, sex and taxes. Like, these are family sex and tax. Like, this is a very, very personal kind of, service that you offer. So take me through your own journey of that.
I mean, the punchline is that I feel incredibly lucky and blessed to be able to do this. I'm flattered, and I don't take for granted the trust that people put in me to let me into their family history, because, as I said, there's stuff there that, you may not want people to know. And so, and in fact, every single memoir project I've worked on, my client has said to me at one point or another, oh, wait, don't put that in the book.
Yeah.
And so there is I do the opposite of what I'm doing right now. Usually I'm the one who asks the questions and who listens. And you're such a good listener, and you ask such good questions. And so this is an unusual seat for me to be in. And just the privilege of being able to hear someone's story. I love listening to family stories. I don't get bored by them at all. My parents are gone. I lost my dad a week before I graduated from college, and my mom when I was still quite young as well. And look, when they're gone, they're gone. And it doesn't, even though you understand the words when I say that, you don't actually know what it feels like until it happens. Right. And you don't get a second chance with this stuff. So I really go into these client meetings just with the idea of helping someone really think about what they want to say, and then saying it in a compelling and lovely way that will last the test of time.
I love it.
I'm just very lucky to be able to do that.
Oh, so Clemence, when we come back, we're going to talk to you more about who you like to network with, who's a good introduction for you, and then how people can utilize your services. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
What's the most interesting thing about your family and its history? Wouldn't it be great to document that for your kids and your grandkids? Hi, I'm Clemence Scouten. I'm a personal historian, and that's exactly the kind of question I'd like to help you think about. What do you want your kids to know about the man your father was? What family stories are there that illustrate the values you care about and you want to pass down? It's the answers to questions like these that make family history so important, and there's any number of ways I can help you capture that information and share it with your family. Creating family history books, memoirs, developing family trees. These are all opportunities to better appreciate our ancestors, where we came from, and how we want this legacy to be remembered. Think about it this way. Wouldn't you like to have a book your grandfather or grandmother wrote for you? Of course you would. It would be really special to read that and be able to pass it on to your children. I've created books that detail careers and family businesses, that celebrate important milestones, and that commemorate the life of a loved one. When it comes to documenting your family's history, nothing compares to the depth and richness of an assisted memoir, but there are many other ways for us to work together. Publishing diaries, a collection of letters, a map of where people lived, or even a simple photo book. If tackling your family history seems daunting, or you don't know where to begin, I can help with the research, with organizing and scanning the family documents, and with anything else that needs to happen to ensure that your family story is told with the respect and professionalism it deserves. I hope you'll give me a call to talk about what we could do. Together, I know we can create something really special to be cherished for generations to come.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Connect to Success. I'm your host, Ashley Owens. I am here with Miss Clemence Scouten. I am so thrilled for you to be here because we were just talking about during the break about how I probably need my own services with you because I've got full trunks of stuff that I don't know how to sift through. That I would really love to learn more about your, just how you'd be able to put all that stuff together. But what I really love about what you do is that you can work with so many different people at such different stages of their life, right? So you can work with the family members that are looking to get the memoir done with their grandparents or their parents. You can work with the people who have just, are going through an estate and find all of these, items that they're trying to put the pieces together. So when you're networking and when you're looking for clients, who would a good introduction for you be? I know that you and I met Francesca, or we're friends of Francesca, and she runs Estate Angels, which is the perfect connection because you guys both share the same kind of client. But tell me more about who are the people that are good referrals for you?
Sure. I have two kinds of clients, right? Sometimes I get hired by the adult child who's, 50 or older, and sometimes I get hired directly by the, the target person, the 80-year-old. And so good referral sources for me are anyone who interacts with that type of person. So elder lawyers, estate lawyers, financial advisors, retirement community events people, people who work in this hospice companies, which is kind of the sad part of it, but look, that's the reality. And so that's a good referral for me in terms of networking for future clients.
And so when you're working with other people like Francesca, right, because she runs Estate Angels, so elder lawyer would be great referral sources, but who else in that space that aren't clients that you could collaborate with, that you would work together with?
Who in that space, who what?
Would you be able to collaborate with, to work with?
Did I say financial planners?
You did, yeah, but that would be more of a one-way kind of introduction, right? So like, say, for example, if you were to do a webinar, right? And you were to be able to bring on somebody else that has an expertise in something else revolving around being able to benefit from your services. What kind of industry would that be?
Well, I do work with a number of photo organizers, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
That's I do work with photo organizers. That's a profession, and we all have zillions of photos out there on our computers and in boxes we don't know what to do with. And when you can't deal with it, you just hire someone, and they are angels, let me tell you. So that's a good partnership because they focus on the skeleton, right, the photographs, and then I come in and focus on the intangible. So that's a good kind of parallel referral partner.
And so where do you network? So tell me, with everything, the pandemic kind of like shutting everything down and you not being able to go to these elder events and kind of coordinate, what has your networking activity been like?
Well, it's really just the same, but on Zoom, and that's fine. I belong to a number of associations. So, for example, the Philadelphia Estate Planning Council, and they do Zooms all the time. There's like a Yellow Pages for seniors called Senior Directory. It has nothing to do with the Yellow Pages, but it's it lists all the services seniors need. It's great, and they do Zooms. They're very intentional about their networking, and so the moderator is very good about allowing people to introduce themselves, using the chat function to list your name, what you do, the name of your company, your contact information. And I will say now that Zoom is, this virtual networking, it's so overtly networking as opposed to like just, oh, it's nice to meet you, let's chat about our lives and what we do. But taking that step to actually say, okay, here's my information. Okay, here's the type of referral I'm looking for. there's a little bit of a gap before. That was just awkward to do that. Now that everyone's quite open about that's the whole point of the Zoom,
Right.
it's become much easier to say, here's my information. I think we'd be good partners. Why don't we set up a separate one-on-one Zoom? And then that leads to, a more substantive and in-depth conversation about how we could work together as referral partners.
Amazing. And so are there any networking groups that you're a part of? So say somebody who is also in a similar industry would like to network with you. Are there groups that you're a part of that you go to once a week or once a month? Tell me more about that.
Well, there's the photo managers, which is an association of photo managers, and I belong to that. And they do a great job with the virtual networking. As I said, the Philadelphia State Planning Council, the senior directory people. There's an elder law firm, or he's solo practitioner, but he hosts an open forum that's kind of networking to Slutsky Law, so that's great. Those are the ones that I've been involved with the most since COVID. But it also leads into networking in other forms where you give presentations. Maybe that doesn't qualify as networking.
It definitely does. The activity is absolutely there. I think if you're working in collaborating in an environment where there's a community effort, absolutely. Where do you think your business is going to go in the next few years? Like, what's the goal for you?
Well, I just want to help more people write their memoirs and capture their family history. And it's very top of mind. Family is top of mind right now because we're all stuck with each other.
Right. Or honestly, the ending result to COVID. Some people can be taken from, the family, and it's good to get all of those memories down.
Yeah. And there are many, many things a person can do on their own that they don't need me, right? Next time you're talking, it's Thanksgiving and you're with your family, just hit record on your phone and tell your grandmother, tell me the story about how you met grandpa or whatever. And now you have it as a recorded story. Ask her permission to do that. But there are many ways to, get started. It's then what you do with it that also matters.
Oh, I love that. So can you actually go into more? Because Thanksgiving is coming up. We're shooting this in, it is October. Is it October? Are we on October 1 yet? Oh.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So if you, so let's go into those activities. So like just recording your grandmother telling the stories, what other advice would you give to somebody who's going home for Thanksgiving and wanting to capture all that information?
Well, so the stories is to me the most fun thing to do, but another one is to ask specific information. So for instance, do you know your grandmother's, your mother's maiden name? Not many people do because maiden names disappear quickly in a family tree. So if you don't know some of the basics like that, just ask, right? Write it down. People forget, right? If you're talking to your 80-year-old grandma and you say, well, where were you when you were 20? That's 60 years ago. Yeah. Right? So write it down. Another idea is to look at family photos with the storyteller, the potential storyteller, right? Because those trigger memories. And when you get a little older, right? So you learn different family stories. So it turns out that grandma was married the first time before grandpa, but no one's going to tell you that when you're 8 years old.
No one's going to tell you that.
When you're 25 or whatever, right? So, so you can use photos to trigger memories. And then if everyone has the energy, do some photo triage. Just do a little bit, just chip away at it. Why do we have this photograph of the rose bush in a house that nobody seems to know what house it is? Throw it away. Yeah. Throw it away. Right. The 80s, the 90s, duplicates and triplicates of every photograph we picked up at CVS or wherever.
Throw them away.
Throw them away.
Oh my gosh. Well, Clemence, do me a favor. Can you tell people how they can find you and the best way to contact you?
Sure. Well, my website is memoirsandmore.com, and there's a contact us option, or you can call me 215-645-7766, I'd love to hear from you.
Beautiful.
Even if you just have a question, even if you don't want to hire me, just have a question.
Thank you so much, Clemence. I appreciate you being here today. I think that everybody needs to do this before Thanksgiving, so at least you've got some gifts for Christmas and for the holidays. Just get on it. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, and thank you, everybody, for watching. Connect to Success with me, Ashley Owens, your personal networking concierge. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email ashley@ashleysays.com. We'll get you on the show to talk about your tactical tips and practical takeaways in networking, who you are, what you do, what makes you awesome, and to hang out with me because I need more friends. So we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.